Hello, internet world. Yes, it's your probably not so favorite podcast on YouTube. My name is Wayne. I am the captain of the USS Southern Cross, the Melbourne chapter. Now I'm going to try and remember because I figured out my camera's reversed, so I've got to go that way. My learned colleague is
Sean from TrekkieFanfiction.com, also a member of Southern Cross.
I'm hoping I'm doing it the right angle because the last video we did, I'm doing this all the time, and it's
just pretend you're one of those girls on on one of the sales shows.
Oh,
check out our latest product.
Yeah, ain't gonna work. Not gonna work. Okay, so we're doing another short ramble. This is Sean's fault. He picked the episode. We're doing the TOS. Oh, forgot. Hang on.
Catspaw.
Catspaw. I knew that. I was getting there slowly. Catspaw. So it actually went to air on October the 27th, 1967.
Which explains a lot.
I've got to admit, and for those of you who have not or haven't watched Catspaw yet,
don't.
This is a psychedelic one. It's kind of look, I'm gonna say
before they drew up the script to this one, they dropped some LSD.
I'm gonna say it's a kind of a cross between an attempted horror, Twilight Zone, The Outer Limits, and a few others which I can't remember off the top of my head.
The way I think about it is that it was originally an attempt to write serious science fiction. When you look at it, it's written by Robert Bloch. Now, Robert Bloch wrote some very good Star Trek. He wrote some very good fiction. When you consider that this is the man who wrote Psycho. Okay.
That kind of says it all, I think. Oh, hang on. Yeah. Before we get into it, we're going to try this timer again, and I've given us 60 minutes because we can't do the 30 minutes. It's just not working. Here we go. So we're going to try this. I don't know how well this is going to work. I don't think it's going to work.
So,
all right, back to you.
The way I picture this episode is as a baseball game. Okay, so Robert Bloch is on the mound. He's the pitcher. He's got the ball in his hand. He's got the pitch in his hand. And we've got at the plate, we've got the director, and we've got DC Fontana, who is also writing the teleplay at the plate. And so he pitches, and DC swings and seriously missed. So he pitched a great idea. And what we have in the story is we've got these extragalactic beings who have come to try, well, who knows what exactly they really had in mind, but they're here with a plan.
This has been done on a lot of different, not so much back in the 60s, but between the 80s and the late 90s, the concept that fell here was in a lot of TV movies and a lot of TV science fiction series. The concept they put behind this was in a lot of TV series where they come in and then they've got to this level of incredible technology and advancement, but they've lost all what makes it worth living.
Well, in this case, it was you took a fairly high-minded science fiction idea where you've got these extragalactic, totally alien creatures, which were revealed at the end to be some of the hokiest. They look like what? Pipe cleaner creatures.
I think they were pipe cleaner. Or little. Remember those little chickens that used to be on the top of the eggs over here?
Yeah.
That's what they look like, but blue.
They were awful. They were really awful. But yeah, so you've got these the hokiest little toy creatures known to man. But so you've got these totally alien creatures who've come from another galaxy, to explore, to conquer. Who knows what their plan was originally? One of them seemed to want to explore. The other one wanted to conquer. She just went nuts, obviously. But the point is that it was a high-minded concept that got corrupted entirely for the sake of a cheesy Halloween special. And that's what it turned into. It was turned into a cheesy Halloween special.
That's probably actually not. Now that you say that, I hadn't put the dates together, but you're probably right.
Yeah, it was October 27, for goodness sake, 4 days before Halloween.
I hadn't put the date together. Sorry, everybody in the world. In Australia, Halloween isn't that big, so it's not really. It's not on our radar.
When we were kids, 1967, Halloween was NBD. If a kid actually went out and did trick-or-treating and knocked on the door, you'd probably just scare people wondering what the heck is that kid doing at our front door dressed like that for? It's
we
like,
wouldn't have known anything about trick-or-treating back in those days. So, but yeah, you're right. It does come across to me as a kind of a holiday special that they've tried to create when you put it that way.
So as I said, so you got Robert Bloch, who comes with this great idea, and it gets corrupted into a cheesy Halloween special. Now the idea, though, that these aliens were aiming at the conscious, missed entirely, and simply hit the subconscious, is an interesting notion.
I was actually intrigued. They actually stopped the episode for a minute and actually explained that. I was actually very surprised they went down that road, because normally if you watch Star Trek of the original, they don't usually talk about that kind of stuff. They usually bounce around all over it. But this time Spock really went into a little bit of detail, and I was surprised, because I think for me, that all of a sudden made the episode a little bit more sensible, what was actually going on.
Well, I've heard some interesting notions being thrown around recently from some sectors saying, hey, we should redo the original series and relaunch it and have it updated. And if there's one episode that I really would love to see redone with a new cast, with a respectable amount of money thrown at it, it would be this one. Mind you, I would thoroughly rewrite it and actually throw in some extra ideas. For instance, if you hit the subconscious of a Vulcan, what would you find?
Well,
because they missed a really interesting idea.
Yeah, I think they missed a massive one. I think, in all honesty, a battle of the minds between the female and Spock would have been immensely interesting.
It would have been fascinating. Of course, it became all about Kirk and her, and it became another opportunity for, oh my goodness, male dominance, blah blah blah. Seriously, it was
smooching and Kirk food. We have to have Kirk food. All right, now Kirk food even beats Sulu food. I mean, I know we're getting
up to that point. Half the episode it was a weird cross between Star Trek and the Thunderbirds. I'm seriously. The actors. Seriously. They got paid a lot to just pretend they were Thunderbirds.
I just like the fight scene. I mean, there was one, I don't know if anyone sees it. You actually got to watch it. I rewatched it a few times, where Sulu, right at the end, he kicks out and he's overextended. And I think if Kirk or William Shatner hadn't grabbed him, he was going to end up doing the splits on the ground. He completely lost it. Yeah. So if Kirk hadn't grabbed his leg, I think there would have been a serious injury on the set. Really bad one.
Yeah.
So
Poor George would have lost his cojones.
George would have had. I think he would have had to have sat down for a while. Look, I think you're right in one respect. The premise or the very core of the episode, before you actually write it, before you whatever, the very concept of the episode was actually a brilliant concept. It had a lot of potential. But, and as we've said in multiples of these, I think the concept or the core idea would never have been able to have been done in the 60s.
No. Not on a low budget. And
well, I don't think it could have been done anywhere. I think the only times, and I have to give them credit, and I know I'm giving another TV show, Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits, they actually did a lot of good episodes. They did some great episodes.
They did some great science fiction.
They're underrated especially The Outer Limits. They were underrated by enormous amounts on science fiction. I think they made you really think about the episode that you were watching.
Even today, I find it amazing that there are times when I find it hard to just get somebody to sit down and watch it.
Yeah, no, I can agree with you. Yeah.
It goes over so many people's heads. It's like, I don't get it.
I mean, we all say, and I mean, I do it all the time. I say that Star Trek was a massive social shifter, but I think The Outer Limits and Twilight Zone, they really played shifting games. They shifted the entire social parameters around. And I think, truthfully, if Star Trek had been able to do a similar kind of thing as those two, I think Star Trek would have even been miles better than what it already was.
Yes. If they'd been allowed to actually to really use their brain. And
I don't think using their brain was actually on the script.
Mind you, that was highlighted with the cage, for goodness sake. Too cerebral.
Yeah. They wanted a Western space.
It was too cerebral. And so instead of the cage, we got Where No Man Has Gone Before.
I think the cage was one of their best episodes. It was honestly one of their best episodes.
Yes.
And it took us
brilliant.
It took us a decades to be able to see it. And I think that if we'd been able to see the cage, although I'm not certain if the cage would have, I don't know if the cage would have done what the first episode of Star Trek did. I'm not certain. Everybody wanted this. We'd been coming off the Westerns. There'd been so many Western TV series, and everybody loved that.
Oh, it was ad nauseum, that's for sure.
That's what they wanted. That's what they wanted to get. They didn't want a cerebral thing in the 60s to sit down and have to think about it.
So, I know. He had to sell it as the wagon train to the stars.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately. And I think, in all honesty, we got done over a little bit as fans because we didn't get to see where Star Trek could have gone.
Yes.
And I think...
exactly. I mean, Robert Bloch probably did sell Catspaw. I mean, I'd love, to be honest, we see DC Fontana's Catspaw. I would love to actually see what Robert Bloch actually wrote.
I had a quick look on the internet, and there is literally only the one that went to air. There's nothing about anything else. I can't find it. Now, I'm not saying it's not out there. I just physically can't find it. But if it is out there, I don't. But then again, today, in today's Star Trek and today's fandom, that's the kind of stuff that fans want to see. So I would assume it's got to be somewhere. Or the original pitched idea. You're not going to see probably a script. It'll be
it's not like we can actually ask Robert Bloch. He died back in 1994. And mind you, this is a bloke who probably did still have it. I'm just looking at a bit of his bio here. He's an interesting bloke. He's known to have said, despite my ghoulish reputation, I really have the heart of a small boy. I keep it in a jar on my desk.
backhanded. I'm a sympathetic person, but I'm also gorish as well.
Indeed. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, he wrote a fan letter to H.P. Lovecraft at the age of 16. So I think that says it all.
Well, don't anyone get me wrong. I think Lovecraft's work is
Brilliant.
It's brilliant. It's, for me, it's a little bit over my kind of ability to sort of get into it. I mean, but he was a genius as a writer. I mean, you can't dispute that.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that says it all. If you've got hooked on Lovecraft at that kind of that age, yeah, and you become a writer.
While I would say he's a genius, he's not necessarily my cup of tea.
No, yeah, so. That's what I was looking for. He's not my cup of tea. Not to say that wasn't a genius and he was a brilliant writer. He's just not my cup of tea.
Yes.
I'm
quite happy. I'm quite happy to say to put somebody up on a pedestal and say you're a brilliant writer, but that doesn't mean I necessarily want to pick up.
No, I agree with you. I've got friends who love Lovecraft.
Yes.
And that's what they talk about. They love that kind of genre, and that's fine. But it's not what I go looking for. And we may end up one day getting to some of the Star Trek episodes that tried to make horror movies and completely and utterly failed on them. That's another story. Look, I think Catspaw, they did play with this super being concept in TOS probably a lot more than they played in a lot of other of the series of the franchise, because you end up with Trelaw, you end up
Trelane,
with
you mean?
Trelane. Yeah, see, names hopeless. Anyone who is listening, I am hopeless with names. And I can guarantee I'm going to call Sean something else before the end of this podcast. Then they do the Greek gods, and then they do another set of. So they really like this concept of
the super being.
Yeah. And I think with Catspaw,
Trelane, Apollo.
I think with Catspaw they tried it, but I don't think they hit the mark for some reason. I don't know why. Look, I think it was a bit slow at the beginning too. I thought getting it going, it was a bit slow at the beginning.
Yeah, poor old Lieutenant Redshirt being beamed up and then having that silly voice coming out of his mouth. Oh, you're under a curse.
Yeah.
How cheesy can you get?
I thought doing the Macbeth piece on the planet was a bit, that was a bit cheesy.
Oh, yes. Mind you, I think that was the idea.
Yes, to make it cheesy?
Especially, no. Okay, maybe in 1967, it may have been more effective to the television audience. To our eyes, we look at it and we see, my goodness, McDonald's wouldn't put that much cheese on a burger. Okay, but seriously, I've seen hamburgers with less cheese on it than that.
They were really hamming it up with it. Are we going to go through any more of these?
But you look at the landing party, and they're not the least bit affected by this. Okay, no, they're looking at they can see it for what it is.
We've also
they're not the least bit spooked by it. They're sort of like, seriously.
We've gone beyond that. Because we're now in the 23rd century, we've now gone to space. We've evolved beyond that kind of being scared of things, because there's bigger things out there to be scared of than just smoke and mirrors.
Exactly. Well, they're looking at this and thinking, wow, seriously, I remember reading about this in Shakespeare, but seriously, I was never expecting to see this on a planet. There's got to be something else going on here.
Yeah.
So they immediately realize, and when Spock says, okay, this isn't real, Kirk knew instinctively he's right. This isn't real. This can't be real. Nothing that I'm looking at here could possibly be real.
No. Look, I agree with you on that. I think that part, for a split second, I thought they were going to test or show how much humans had evolved from. And I thought they were leading up to it. Even though it was cheesy how they did it, I thought there was a possibility that they could actually have a really interesting piece. And then it just died away and they didn't go any further with it. And then they played with castles and skeletons and chains. And I'm thinking that, yeah, all right, but they're not scary.
Yeah. They weren't scary. They weren't scary at all. Mind you, their ability to transmute things was impressive.
Yes.
To move things from place to place. And if they had, if they had actually gone into that in a bit more depth, I think Kirk and Spock might have been a bit more impressed. What was his name?
I did like the factor that Kirk didn't shoot first and ask questions later in this one. He was
he was using his brain. If poor old Korob had gone into a bit more detail and said, we come from planet X, and we come in peace, or at least explained a bit more. He was pretty vague about what he was all about. Okay, we're not really like you. Okay, that's pretty vague.
Yeah,
well, we're not really like you. We're not about senses like you are, or what have you. But he's still pretty vague. If he got into it a bit more detail, and gotten him a bit more on side, that we might have gone somewhere. But it was all so vague.
Well, if you're going to go with the vague concept, let's go with the whole vague part where we don't really know what they wanted the crew for. They scooted around the subject a bit, but never really pinned it down. They wanted feelings and emotions, but they didn't really state what they wanted.
Yeah, why are they here? Are they exploring? Are they in our galaxy to explore? I mean, surely these creatures that are about this big can't be really that impressive. Are they here to conquer and what have you? I have been playing with an idea where I could take them in the future, but I've been writing a series of stories based in the 32nd century regarding the Andromedans, but because these guys are from another galaxy, I thought, and because they have extraordinary mental and abilities, and they have the ability to transmute, I thought it might be fun to actually do something real with them.
Well, also, I struggled with
these guys.
And I know somebody is going to literally tell me that, how this all worked, but how they got to our galaxy in the first place.
I mean, how did they get here? I mean, we used the transmuter, and it's like, well, that's nice. What the hell is that? Mind you, did you notice Spock made a number of glaring mistakes at the end of this episode?
Oh, I'd name one. Or name two. Let's name two.
All right. One. The aliens are revealed at the end of the episode. Did he scan them?
No, he wanted to capture them. He wanted to, and that was. If we're going to go with there for a minute, let me digress.
They are a completely alien line form, and even though they're dying in front of him, he doesn't even bother to scan them.
Did you hear what he wanted to do? He wanted to take them and he wanted to study them. Now that goes against everything that Starfleet and the Federation. So they want to kidnap two alien individuals, and they want to subject them to tests.
They are, they're alien life forms, but they're not us, and they are, we're going to hold them against their will, Yeah.
and we're going to study them. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
hang on, they've proven that they're intelligent and they've got some sort of consciousness. Maybe it's completely different to what we've got, but they've got it, and you want to basically study them and hold them prisoner. I'm thinking, I'm not certain where that came from. That was a really bad line, to be honest. But
yeah,
number 2, go with number 2.
all right. So okay, the creatures have died. Once again, he hasn't even bothered to try and scan them. And also, you notice that the wand that Kirk destroyed was simply a device used to channel the transmuter. Where is it?
Yeah, I didn't pick it up when I rewatched it a couple of days ago. But
did they even bother to look for it?
Because I read the synopsis, like the story plot through it, and they said that, and then they said Kirk destroyed it. And a little while after I'd read it, I'm kind of going, but hang on, if that wasn't the thing that actually got them here, what was the thing that actually got them here? And where was it? Where is it still?
Yeah, it more than likely probably still exists. Why didn't someone even bother to look for it?
I don't get that. So that's basically an amplifier. What the wand was, which I might add, which was a ball on a looked like a badminton racket. That's what it looked like.
Yeah,
I think, but no, that part, yeah. And I know this is silly because but they're this big. That's the famous line from Galaxy Quest. It's this big.
Yeah.
So they're this big or so. How have they gone from this to build this massive empire and this technology when their brains are probably the size of a peanut? It goes against everything.
So size isn't everything.
No, but it goes against everything that we understand about biology. And they would have known that biology back then. So we've got a creature that's got a brain the size of a peanut, and yet it's probably 1,000 or more years ahead of us in technology at that point. I don't get that point. I physically don't get that.
Well, I don't just see. I don't just. Well, look, I'm a little with Yoda on that side, and that is size matters not. Look at me. Judge me by my size, do you?
No, I would actually judge Yoda by his size. There you go.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't necessarily judge by his size in that. When you consider that the most modern computers, the chips that run them are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and we're talking about nanotechnology that is just getting mind-bogglingly small.
Okay, I can go with you on that. I have no problems, but we're talking about biology here.
No, we are talking about biology.
But brain, supposedly, we're going to try and get scientific here.
All right, just for the sake of argument, you and I. All right, I'm making an assumption here. You and I have normal brains.
You may. I don't think I have, but you may. But all right, keep going.
All right, I have a relatively normal brain.
You have a normal brain.
We have a relatively normal brain. Now, I'm aware of a lady in the UK who was recently, she's a known case, shall we say. She has only about 5% of brain matter, and yet she lives a normal life. Her I think she suffers from encephalopathy, but basically her most of her brain was destroyed when she was fairly young, but her through natural wonders, her brain adjusted, and what's left just simply took over the task. So using only 5% of what we normally take for granted, she has led a normal life. And I mean, she's a nurse.
Look,
Okay.
I'm not disputing that situations like that can happen, and I know.
Yeah, but you're still thinking about something that big, creating an empire. All right. Yeah, it's a stretch. It's a stretch.
Well,
All right. Say for the sake of argument. Remember, these are very alien. Okay. All right. Let's take a step into the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
oh no.
Have you read the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Long time ago.
Do you remember the mice?
No.
You don't remember the mice.
Hang on.
The mice were hyperdimensional beings which were incredibly intelligent, and incredibly intelligent, and the mouse part of them was simply a small part of them that protruded into our dimension. The rest of them were actually extra dimensional, and so that what we perceived in the episode was only an actual small part of them, and so we're only actually we're not really seeing the entire creature.
All right, no, I could go with that, but that's not where these creatures came from. They came from another galaxy in our own universe. So if they're in our universe, they have to follow certain physics and biology. You can't change it just because you're in another galaxy. If this would have been better if they had placed them in an interdimensional, that I wouldn't have had trouble with.
Well, what limits are there on their transmutation device?
Well, they didn't. They said they came from another galaxy.
But as I said, what limits are there on their transmutation device?
Well, we don't even know what their transmutation device is, so we can't specifically state that.
Well, they said they traveled here using their transmutation device, but if there are no true limits on their transmutation device, who says where it actually is? Maybe it's still back on the planet they came from, and they simply zapped here in an instant from that planet that they came from.
No, I don't think we're going to get anywhere with this, because we could go around in circles.
I know, it's all pure conjecture.
We could go around in circles for just a single episode on this.
They didn't necessarily zap here on the Enterprise.
He's been waiting to do that.
But they could have. We came here. They did that. Yes, unlike Kirk, who came here on this one.
He's been waiting to do this for the whole episode, the whole podcast. He's been waiting to show his models.
Not on this one. Not on this one. Not on this one. Okay.
Oh,
I'm a bit of a traditionalist when it comes to TOS.
Oh,
this
yeah.
may look good on Strange New Worlds, but yes.
No, I like the old ship.
I like this one.
Yeah, I like the old ship.
I like this one.
I have no problems with that. Look, the underlining factor is this episode, if you really want to get technical, and I know a lot of the original series do this, the whole episode was either played in their dining room or in the dungeon. So it was only played in two, really. Yeah, all right.
And with a little bit on the bridge, that was about it.
Yeah, but it wasn't a huge thing. I think, and I know this always comes back to their budget or lack of budget. Probably nothing. They were probably paying for the episode themselves to be made.
What episode number was this?
It
was only episode 7, so it was still fairly early in the season.
I just, I don't know. I kind of liked it, but there's something that I can't physically put my hand.
You liked it.
I didn't mind
it's one I skip over every single time. The only reason I watched it is so we could do this podcast. Okay.
I like the fact that
I feel like my brain cells are being destroyed every time I
Roddenberry had something about black cats. What was it about black cats in him and the producers and the directors and all that? Because that's when they did The one with Gary Seven.
Yeah, well,
yes,
yeah.
they had Black Cat in that. They had a Black Cat in that.
Simon does.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Your microphone, I'm not used to, I'm hearing you so clearly, so I'm having trouble. That's the thing about this Black Cat. Although, when the Black Cat
Well,
was,
we know he really loved pussycats. Yes.
when the cat's walking through the corridors, it brought back memories of the original Journey to the Center of the Earth and the big lizards and everything. Miniaturized little corridors with the cat going through it.
Yeah, that was just. You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of that episode of The Goodies with the kitten rampaging through London.
Oh, yes. I love that. I love The Goodies.
Seriously, what was it, Kitty Kong? I mean, seriously.
I can't remember.
That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And I cannot take it seriously because of that.
And they slowed the cat down. And the all they needed was the music and the thumping, and they would have had the whole deal.
Mm-hmm.
It was just they would have been better.
But don't take it seriously.
It would have been better to have had her in human form, maybe glowing or something like that, and being really angry. That would have been a better.
Maybe give her some fangs at one point at least.
Well, they could have done anything, but I think having the cat. I mean, all you had to do was either throw a ball of wool or do a laser light or something, and the cat would just take off.
Yeah. You could have solved the whole.
Or opened a tin of.
You just take out your phaser and put it on the lowest setting and just train it on the floor.
Open a tin of Frisky.
No
hey, cat, stop feeding time. Feeding time.
Tap the can. Yeah, whiskers.
I don't know what it was. I don't know why they played the cat at the end as this big, formidable destructo. Let's go with King Kong. I mean, I don't understand that.
It was dumb. Seriously, I mean, she's a lot more formidable as human form and just make things disappear. For goodness sake,
I have to give her on that. She played her character, even though it was not the best character. She played her character really well.
Yeah.
The facial expressions, the shift from this calm, collected to this really aggressive. She did it without even breaking stride.
Antoinette Bauer did a great job as Sylvia.
She would have. You're right. I think personally, they would have been better to have had her image furious at Kirk, and that would have helped, because I think that the very end, when she transmutates them to the dining hall and you see her trying to trick Kirk into giving her the wandy thing, that was actually good. I think they should have done that in the corridors. In all honesty,
this is one of the reasons why I thought if you're going to remake an episode, this would be a great candidate, because you can rewrite it and do that sort of thing.
I'm always suspect about remaking original episodes.
Well, as I said, if giant if, if.
I wouldn't touch these.
I felt really sad for Theodore Marcuse after this one, because he died a year after he made this. The bloke who played Poirot. Sadly, he died in a car crash the year after he made this.
Again, they didn't really touch on why he had the power, and she said it. You're more powerful than me, but you won't use it. They never really explained why she.
Just because he's warm and fuzzy and she's ruthless.
But they're identical creatures. They don't
because he has a conscience and she doesn't.
But this goes back to the question: does he have a conscience? Because they're looking for consciousness. They're looking for that human essence. Well,
that's just it. I suppose at that point he's already discovered the idea of the conscience.
But could you get it? Could you understand it that quickly? You think?
Well, I
Even
think
being a
he
super,
had. I
even
mean,
being an intelligent.
he was trying to protect the humans in that regard. So he had already discovered its meaning.
Or were they trying to show the other side of the flipstick with her, that the emotions that we have, that we've developed some control. I'm not saying we're ever going to control it, but we have controlled our emotions and our perceptions and everything over millions of years of evolution. And getting all of that emotions in a split second, you're just going to get overwhelmed. Is that what they were trying to?
Oh, well, definitely. I mean, that's definitely what happened to her. I mean, she just, flipped out entirely. And it's not the first time I think we've seen that in Star Trek either.
No, it's
you
not.
remember what happened to the Andromedans, where when they took human form, it took them quite a while, and they did the same thing. What was the name of that episode? I was pretty much referring to that earlier, but the Andromedans, the Kelvins, when they came and took over the Enterprise, they took human form, and it took them, while they were adapting to human form, of course, Kirk and crew were able to take advantage of the fact that they had yet to adapt to that. And of course, Scotty taking advantage of the Kelvin with his, it's green.
It's green. Yeah. I love Scotty.
Who doesn't love that line? And Data, of course, reprising that line years later in the next gen.
It's green.
It's green. Yeah.
And it's not
exactly. So having to adapt to that and learning that, I'm not the least bit surprised that she was totally overwhelmed. And
I mean, we're usually totally overwhelmed with the emotions that we have, and we've grown up with them. I mean, having those flooded into you, and from what I could gather from the story, they don't have that anymore. It's not part of what their makeup.
Well, a parallel in the 1960s might have been for somebody taking LSD. Because I've heard that people taking LSD suddenly get a complete sort of sensory overload, and but for a lot of people, they seem to like it, and they just craved more and more of it.
It could also be,
and in her case, she just craved more and more sensation.
It could also be, and again, I'm not looking to start.
Maybe Robert was trying to create that.
Possibly. I'm not trying to start any major arguments or anything. I'm not go at anybody.
I'm just suggesting that there may have been a parallel there.
Could also have been because the 60s were very big on alternate lifestyles.
Yes.
So they may have been trying to subtly say, look, if a person had been brought up in an alternate lifestyle, and then all of a sudden had to come into civilization, their sensory overload would have been very similar to what hers was, I reckon.
Yeah.
So
exactly. I mean, Tarzan coming into the real world.
Yeah. I mean, there was multiple.
Sorry, I shouldn't say the real world, but the so-called civilized world.
Yeah, there was multiple Tarzan movies done with that aspect, and some of them were actually done quite well. And that procedure was done a lot in the earlys, like 50s and into the 60s and 70s. There was a few good movies that actually did show that aspect of somebody coming from an alternate lifestyle, getting sensory overload and emotional overload of everything, and not being able to handle it, completely going, I wouldn't say insane. Well, yeah, I would say a bit off the edge. So in that respect, I think they nailed that point with her. I really do, but I don't think they explained it well enough.
Yeah.
I think
that's just it. I mean, how much can you fit into 50 minutes?
I know, and this is, well, we could have probably got rid of a couple of Kirk Fu fights, but hey, that's just me.
Well, mind you, I mean, the first 15 minutes you could have just fast forwarded through.
Yeah, I'm not certain what they would do. Look, I think, and I know you don't probably agree, but I think the crew member coming back, doing their and the voice coming out,
You're
I
all under a curse.
I think that could have set the point, but I think the misty bits and the wandering around and the blowing, I think the wind, I don't know what the wind was all about.
Ooh.
I think they could
I
have
just said
done,
it's insane.
I think they could have done the Hamlet scene different. I don't think they needed to because that scene stipulates
The three witches.
Yeah, you have to speak it very slowly. That's what that scene was done. Even in Shakespeare, it's spoken. So that just took up time. I think that just wasted some time. They could have picked another scene from somewhere and done exactly the same, and they would have been able to shorten it. They would have, but would they have wanted to fill it up with more knowledge? Even though Star Trek tried to be knowledgeable, I don't think TOS was fully kind of schooled on that yet. It wasn't really, we got into the knowledge and the science more until TNG.
Oh yeah, I know. We look back and all too often we try and judge the past by the standards of the present. And it's always cruel. And it's
cruel and it's unfair because the show was not designed for that cerebral intellect yet. It wasn't there. It was to slip it in occasionally and slip in some very important social aspects, but it was more of an adventure, a weekly adventure, and that's how they got the other little bits through.
Yeah, you've got to have some fight scenes. You've got to have some.
Well, that was the period
action in there. Otherwise, half the people are just going to tune out.
That was the period. The 60s was where you had the fight scenes and that. I mean, I think today's world's going back around that. We've done a complete circle. We're going back to television where we want fight scenes and action and things like that. We don't want to have to sit down and think about what we're watching. I think that's bad, but that's just me. But I think Star Trek, those original ones, they were set. There was this guideline, action. All right, maybe a little bit of talking, but action. So 99% of action and 1% talking kind of thing, I see.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, Catspaw is, I didn't mind it. I'm not saying I liked it, and I'm not saying I would sit down and watch it again, but I didn't mind it. Maybe I'm looking at it from the concept of the actual episode more than the actual episode itself.
Well, yeah, as I said, there were some high-minded ideas there.
Yeah, there were some actually really good ideas in there.
Yeah.
I also liked the hole that they fell down. The hole was so perfect; it was unbelievable. Yeah. Just to make sure, it was an OH&S issue. Make sure nobody scratches themselves. You can just see workstations coming in.
Yeah, no sharp edges there, please.
That's not regulation. We'll have to soften those. You could really give yourself.
How do we know that the edges weren't rubber?
I would say they would probably be the outer edge would either be polystyrene or rubber or something like, because that's what they used all the time.
Absolutely.
But you could see this comes back to what you have constantly said, that the original series is not designed for modern televisions, because you can see the little, like they put the paper mache across, you can see where the seams come across.
That's true. When you go HD, you can see all of the imperfections.
When I was watching it, you could see where the seams of the paper mache or the covering or whatever it was had come across. It hadn't actually fanned them out properly or feathered them out, so you couldn't see them.
I know, for the sake of saving a little bit of embarrassment, sometimes I'd like to just go back and airbrush. Just airbrush a little bit.
Look,
please.
I mean, I watched, and again, this is not the USS Southern Cross Melbourne chapter endorsing anything to do with streaming networks. I watched the particular episode on Netflix because it was easier, but I do have the digitally remastered original series. Yeah. I would actually, now that I've done this and I'm going to put myself through this, I'm going to find the original series and I'm going to find the digital enhanced. I'm going to go back and look at that episode and see if they have. cleared up the rough, the not feathering of that. I know exactly where it is, so I want to have a look to see if it has been fixed up, or even digital enhancement can't fix it.
Yeah, there's some things you just can't fix, so sure.
I know.
I look, yeah, if they're going to go to the trouble of doing CGI effects and what have you, there are some things that's like, for goodness sake, please. Yeah, just airbrush that, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, all right. Let's. I think we've.
It's like, hang on, wasn't there an episode of the original series where there's a newspaper sitting on as in a frame somewhere, and yet even in the reworked even in the we've redone all of them, and we've created all the new effects and what have you, and the newspaper is still there. I'll have to look that one up.
Is that the city on the edge of forever?
No. It's
because I know there was hanging newspapers, and they actually showed you.
No. It's on the Enterprise. It's on the Enterprise. I think it's in the captain's quarters or something like that.
Yeah,
but
I know.
Sitting on somebody's bench or what have you, there's a newspaper sitting there, and as if somebody had been reading it, and then they just started filming and forgot to remove.
I know it. I can't think of the name of the episode. I know the one you mean, and I can see the scene, but I can't remember the episode.
I will have to look it up and find out if they removed it, because seriously, if you're going to go back and redo all the special effects and what have you, just for goodness sake, digitally
but they can only
newspaper.
Giving them the benefit of the doubt. They can only remove what they can see, like they're being told to. They're only, whenever you digitally remove, you're given a list of things to fix and to remove. And if the newspaper is not on that
tells
list,
you to do it, yes,
they won't touch it. Because I mean, don't ever remove something you're not supposed to. For God's sake. Okay, I think we've killed this. So let's do this.
Well, we've done it in under an hour. I'm shocked.
I know. Hang on, we haven't finished yet. Let's do this. What would you give out of 5 for the story?
Which one, the original one, or what DC Fontana?
Well, we've been picking on the TV show, so let's give it on the TV one.
2.
Oh, that's painful. That is really harsh. What would you give? Again, they're all out of 5. What would you give for the whole episode as a package?
1.
Oh, if I go another one, we're going to go to 0 at this rate. Okay, what would you then give on the acting?
2.
Oh, you're harsh on this. You're really being brutal. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I'm being realistic. But the only decent acting in the whole thing was done by Antoinette Bauer.
Okay. I know where this is going to go, and I'm hesitant and scared actually to ask it. Would this be one of the episodes that you would wanted them to have gone back and done like a part 2? I knew that. Luckily, this isn't a number, because I'm not kidding. We'd be down to 0, I reckon.
A part 2?
Yes, like a revisit, like to go back.
If I were to revisit this episode, it would only be as if I could write it. I
would have got Jim Henson to do the puppets before, not pipe cleaners.
Only as if I could write it, and I would do something entirely different with the aliens. There would be none of this spooky crap. Okay? I would do something entirely different with the aliens, because in this case, the aliens were highly intelligent from another galaxy. We simply had a problem dealing with them, because originally they met us on the wrong intellectual level. Now, if we were to meet another group of them and we're able to relate to them in a different way,
All
we
right.
might have a different outcome.
All right.
So
No,
instead of this
that's a valid point.
ridiculous premise that we wound up with in this episode of the cheesy Halloween episode that we got, we might wind up with something else entirely.
No, that's completely fair.
So in that regard, a sequel might be possible.
But if you're going to do a sequel like that, then it's not a sequel to the original. So you're actually,
it would be a sequel to the original, but with with aliens like these guys, or from maybe their our own species, but without the stupid.
Okay, no, I can accept
premise.
that. If you're going to do a different one, they can be either from the same species or from the same galaxy, and they're intrigued. I could go with that. That I could accept.
In which case, a sequel is possible.
Okay. Me for the story. I'm going to give it a 3. I think the story had potential, and there were bits that were actually quite good. I think there were bits. Now, unfortunately, those bits were far and few between, and they didn't match up. The other bits were just scene fillers, I think, and that was silly. But I kind of liked it, so I'll give it a 3. The overall episode, I'm going to give it a 2. I'm actually dropping this. I was going to give it a 3 as I've been thinking about it, but I'm going to give it a 2 only because, and I was going to give it a 1, but the only reason I'm keeping it as a 2 because I like the cat going through the corridor. That gave it an extra point. That gave it an extra point. Would I like to see a part 2? No, only because the part 1 has given me a bad image in my head, and I don't think I could get past that with a part 2.
You don't want to see any more pipe cleaners?
No, no, I don't want to see any more pipe cleaners at all. And I don't want to see anyone. You could see the strings. I don't want to see that. I think that's an episode which should just stand alone by itself and not be
let it die.
Yeah.
Let him die.
Yeah, I personally think it should just die. A very like the little pipe cleaner guys. That was a really bad scene stealer.
Yeah.
They should have. In fact, I don't even understand why they died, to be truthfully honest. But hey, they didn't explain that bit either. No. If they're that easy to kill, then realistically, what are they leaving their galaxy for?
Yeah, if they were that easy to kill, how did they get there in the first place?
Yeah, so, again, that goes back to a lot of problematic situations in the story arc. I think we've killed this enough. I don't think we.
Yeah, it's dead on the floor. It's bleeding out.
Yes. So yeah, like normal. If you've got comments, by all means, put them in the comments. But remember, we can give it, but we can't take it. All right. I should put that as one of the comments. We can give, but we can't take, because we really can't. I know I can't.
I can live with it.
I can't take it. I physically cannot take criticism. I can give it, but I can't take it. All right. I think we're going to call this.
That's true. Wayne is a snowflake.
Yeah, I will admit that openly.
Yeah, look at his top. It looks like snowflakes.
I don't pick on this. It is actually. Oh no, it's I don't know what it is. It was cheap. There you go. I'm cheap. I'm so I'm gonna pull this.
I wasn't gonna go there, but
yeah, I wouldn't go there either. So I'm gonna stop. So we're down to 3 minutes and 46 seconds, which I don't think is too bad.
No, not too bad at all.
I don't think. Anything is now, I can't stop it. Oh, hang on, that's how I stop it. I'm not good with. I'm not good. So there it is. Look. 3 minutes and 32 seconds left of an hour. That's not bad for us.
It's better than a slap in the face, the wet fish.
I think we're not doing 30 minutes ever again. We're just going to do the 60-minute concept and see how close. So we have to get these episode killings done in less than 3 minutes and 32 seconds next time. That'll be our challenge.
Yeah, I'll rate yeah, my last word on this episode is that I would rather watch The Way to Eden.
Oh, no. 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 That's what I'm going to skip over completely all the time. No, you're just as cruel. That's cruel. It wasn't one of the best. Wasn't one of the worst, but wasn't one of the best. I'll give it that.
Mhm.
All right, guys. We'll do another one of these shortly, and hopefully you're not getting sick of them because we're not. We're having too much fun. So I hope you have a good week, good weekend, and we'll see you in a little while. All right, guys. You take care.
Live long and prosper.